Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. Today, we'll be speaking from the Junior High Self-Control Unit, Chapter 1, page 8. The real test of self-control is what you do when no one is looking. The importance of self-control. Self-control is needed in every situation. You need self-control whether you're alone or interacting with others at school, home, work, or even when you're having fun. Self-control enables you to speak and behave appropriately regardless of the choices that are placed before you or the situation that you're in. In fact, self-control is so important that it is probably one of the first character traits that you were taught how to develop. Can you recall your parents reminding you not to touch something because it was hot, not to run around the room because you could fall, or not to touch someone else's belongings because it wasn't yours? As a child, it was the job of your parents and teachers to help you to develop self-control by instructing and reminding you about appropriate behavior. What are some of the other instructions you could think of that are given to children to help them develop the positive trait of self-control? Some are speaking with an appropriate tone of voice, taking turns, or not pushing or shoving. Now that you are growing up, however, it is up to you to take responsibility for keeping yourself in control. You can no longer expect your parents and teachers to remind you of proper behavior. You should now be able to distinguish between right and wrong. In other words, you are now accountable for the decisions you make, how you behave, and how you treat others. Even though you have been developing self-control through the guidance of adults in your life, it is now up to you to determine and practice self-control of your own free will. Keep in mind that if you have to be forced or constantly reminded to follow an instruction, then you are not practicing self-control. It is important to understand that self-control is about what you do and the choices you make, especially when you are not under the direct supervision of adults. Now, that's so important that I want to say it again. It's important to understand that self-control is about what you do and the choices you make, especially when you are not under the direct supervision of adults. Self-control must come from within you and must be practiced consistently. You must be willing to guide and direct your thoughts, feelings, and actions at all times. For example, if you're honest one day, but dishonest the next, then you are not consistently practicing self-control to maintain the character trait of honesty. If you are respectful to adults while in their presence, but disrespectful when they're not around, then you are not consistently practicing self-control to maintain the character trait of respect. Consistency and self-control go hand in hand. Self-control is what you do when no one is watching. As you will see later on, people who allow themselves to lose control even once could find themselves in situations they regret for life. Everyone has areas in their lives where practicing self-control can benefit them. Some people would like to be more organized or to manage their anger better. Take a few minutes and think of some areas where your life can benefit from practicing self-control. Self-control develops other traits. Developing and practicing self-control will enable you to develop many other positive traits. Self-control is the foundation of a positive character. Once again, self-control is the foundation of a positive character. For example, it takes self-control to be responsible. Responsible people complete all tasks to the best of their ability. They are willing to make sacrifices to fulfill their obligations. Rather than neglecting their duties, responsible people stop and consider what needs to be done. Then they make a positive choice to fulfill their obligations to the best of their ability. It also takes self-control to be respectful, especially when someone is not respecting you. If someone disrespects you, the easiest thing to do would be to get even and disrespect them in return. However, taking revenge is not showing self-control. Self-control means to stop and consider that retaliation will lead to more disrespect, hate, and animosity where you, the other person, and even an innocent bystander could get hurt. By becoming a person who has self-control, you will be able to consider all of these things, then make a choice not to take revenge. Responsibility and respect are only two of the many character traits that can be developed if you have self-control. Consider the traits of compassion, humility, and patience. Think of how self-control can be used to develop these three important traits. Guard your mind. Another key concept in developing self-control is to be aware that your actions begin with your thoughts. It's very easy to say, I just did it. I wasn't thinking. But the truth is we are always thinking. Thoughts enter our minds at the speed of light. Thoughts about ourselves, others, things we need to accomplish, and things we want. These thoughts then lead to feelings, which in turn can lead to behavior. It is no surprise that sad thoughts make you feel sad. So how do people act when they feel sad? Many people mope or cry. Some even isolate themselves from friends and family. Your thoughts are powerful. Do not underestimate the effect your thoughts can have on your feelings and your behavior. It is up to you to determine if your thoughts can help you build your character or if they can lead to choices you'll regret. Although thoughts flow in and out of our minds, we have the power to control what thoughts we focus on and what thoughts we let go. People who focus on negative thoughts about themselves and others or about the things they want to do are setting themselves up to fail and engage in behavior they will eventually regret. So, how do you know if your thoughts are positive or negative? Ask yourself if they're harmful in any way. Positive thoughts uphold true moral principles and will not cause harm to you or anyone else. Negative thoughts, on the other hand, pave the way for destructive behavior. They're hateful, revengeful, and selfish. So guard your mind by distinguishing between positive and negative thoughts. Consider the types of feelings and actions your thoughts can lead to. Think about it. Think about a time when your thought led to certain feelings. How did you react? Contemplate it for a moment. Be your own best critic, not your worst. Control the way you think about you. Have you ever heard the saying, you're your own worst critic? Well, most of us are. We can really put ourselves down, especially when we act in ways that are disappointing. Although it is okay to be disappointed with our actions when we know we could have made a better choice, it is not okay to continually belittle our worth as human beings. If you become disappointed with yourself, examine the thoughts and feelings that led you to act in a certain way. Then, focus your thoughts on what you need to change in order to make better choices. Thoughts like, I'm so stupid, I can't do anything right. Or it doesn't matter what choice I make, I'm always wrong, are self-defeating. They will not help you change or improve. The danger in thinking negatively about yourself is that after a while, you begin to believe it. If you believe that you can't do anything right, then you will put forth no effort in making right decisions. You will continue to repeat the same negative behavior. People who get into the habit of thinking negatively about themselves are more likely to get talked into experimenting with risk-taking behaviors such as premarital sex, drugs, and even crime. They tend to have I have nothing to live for, so I might as well do whatever attitude. A study done on former drug and alcohol abusers, a common thread was found. These persons all reported having negative thoughts about themselves and their abilities. This left them feeling as if their lives were worthless and as if they were failures. Self-control is learning to control the way you think about yourself. By examining or critiquing your behavior for the purpose of improving yourself, you're practicing self-control. On the other hand, when you persist in thinking about yourself in a negative way and make no attempt to change your behavior, you are not practicing self-control. You're being your own worst critic. Once you are down on yourself, it is really easy to stay down and continue to wallow in negative thoughts. It takes self-control to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. Chew on this. You wouldn't consider someone as a friend who puts you down and calls you names, so don't do it to yourself.